I'm Victoria Pearson, but you can call me V, and I promise you that next week I will show you my adventures from my holiday, which I am home from now. But first, I'm going to show you our little trip to the zoo that we did a couple of weeks ago because I finally got round to editing the footage. So we went to Whipsnade Zoo, which is just outside of Dunstable in the village of Whipsnade. It's an absolutely beautiful setting, and I really should have filmed something on the way there, but I kind of needed my phone for a sat nav. We arrived at about 11, which is an hour after the park is open. That is because we got in on the cheap tickets with Universal Credit. You had to be in an hour after everybody, and you're supposed to leave an hour before everybody as well, but nobody was checking that. So you could have stayed for ages and ages, but honestly, 11 till 4 was plenty of enough time for us. There was a lot of walking involved, and we were getting quite hot and tired by the end of it. That being said, I'm not entirely sure that a single day at Whipsnade Zoo is enough to see everything. I don't think that we did. There's not like a circular route that goes around. You just kind of go hither and thither and all over the place. And so I did feel like we had missed some things. But we downloaded the Whipsnade app, and that let us mark the animals that were most important to the children to see. And so we could plan a route around those, which was really, really helpful. So our first stop was to visit the penguins. Don't panic, your screen is not cracked. That is a weird netting thing that I presume is there to protect the penguins from prey type birds like red-tailed kites. We get a lot of those in this area. But the penguins were really, really lively. It was nice to see some animals moving around because it was hot the day that we arrived. And so a lot of the animals were just sort of lying around in the shade, as you would expect. But the penguins, being in the water, were a lot more playful. And my youngest was so happy to see them. Those were the things that he most wanted to see. We didn't see any emperor penguins, but we did see lots of rockhopper penguins, which I absolutely love, and a lot of king penguins as well. And it was set in this beautiful setting where you could see all the way out through the Dunstable Downs, which was just gorgeous. A little bit later, we stopped for some lunch because it was around 12ish by then, and we didn't want to carry our picnic everywhere, but we could see giraffes having their lunch from our picnic table, and we could also see these rhinos as well. We did go and have a closer look at the rhinos before we went to meet the giraffes because they were kind of on opposite sides of each other. They always look so small from far away, and then you get close to them and you realise just how massive they are. They're almost like prehistorically huge, and they're so very placid and good natured. They just sort of bumble about eating their grass, and it is so fantastic to see. And they're such scary looking animals, but they've got such chill sort of vibes about them. So I always found it really sad to read about the poaching that happens to rhinos in the wild and how their horns are sawn off and sold for traditional medicines. But I really like that Whipsnade Zoo does a lot of conservation work involved in stopping that. After we had finished our lunch, we went to go and visit the giraffes that we'd been able to see from our picnic table. They are, again, such beautiful, placid creatures. Look how tall they are. That one there is a baby, and it is still about 6 foot tall. It was just amazing to see them. They were quite happy because they'd just had their lunch. They were just sort of bumbling about and enjoying some sunshine before they went back in to go to the shade. And I just loved seeing them, how rickety they look, but how steady they are on their feet. It always amazes me how independent the young are. Just as soon as they're born, they're just bopping about, doing their thing. Don't really need the mum anymore. That's fine. It's such a very big contrast to my children. And they look so innocent and so passive. I don't know why the Owl House decided that giraffes were evil. But next up, we went and saw the zebras. There weren't very many of them. They seemed to be huddling together a lot to keep the flies off each other, which was sweet. And then, you may not be able to see it in this tree, but we could see a red panda. He was unfortunately quite well hidden. I'm not sure if you can really see him there, but he was much easier to see once he started to move, and he was so pretty. It's a beautiful red colour. He came out along his little branch so that everyone could look at him, and then he just disappeared again. Like, hi humans, hello, yes, you've come to see me, I'm beautiful, now I'm going to go back in the shade again. There was another one over here in a separate enclosure as well. Honestly, not sure how they managed to contain the red pandas in these enclosures because they can clearly climb up the trees and get out of it if they want to. Maybe they just know what side their bread's buttered and know that if they stay there, they can just get fed. Next, we headed to the butterfly house where you could find all sorts of different fish and lizards, snakes, and all sorts of things like that. Some of them were really, really cool. I did not know that you could get fish in the desert, for example. And some of the things were a bit harder to spot. We had the little fish in there with the little lizards. You've got lots of dark water fish and all sorts of different kinds of fish. My husband was quite fascinated by this. I don't really understand a lot about fish, but I did enjoy watching this little chameleon bopping along there. I'm not sure if you can see him because chameleons famously quite well camouflaged. As I said, I had absolutely no idea that you could get fish in a desert, but apparently you can. And I just love the way these tanks are set up in Whipsnade, where they've got the underwater creatures and the overwater creatures in the same sort of place. It's like a little jungle biome. And then in the butterfly house itself, it was so humid. It was so very beautiful. It was like being in a little jungle. You got these tanks full of various different bugs, but in the butterfly house itself, all of the butterflies are just free roaming, and these little birds were as well. And one of the staff members at Whipsnade asked, did we know what kind of bird it might be? I thought it might be a weird type of peacock, but apparently they are a kind of pigeon. That's the strangest pigeon that I have ever seen. As I said, the butterfly house was very hot and very humid, and we didn't spend too long in there. I did enjoy meeting the little crocodile, though, in his pool. He seemed very happy, just chilling out in there, literally. And I really enjoyed seeing all the different butterflies in the butterfly house that were just flying around. My child got a little bit scared when one of them flapped too close to his face and he had to go out quite quickly, but I wouldn't have spent too long in there anyway, just simply because of the heat and the humidity in there. They've got that waterfall in there, and they've got mist sprayed into the air to make it as close to the animal's natural habitat as possible. And as a result, it is sweltering, but it is so, so beautiful. I had a weird moment where I thought, why don't they put the jungle birds in there as well? And then I realised that the butterflies probably wouldn't enjoy that. We went to see the bird show next. There's a bird show a couple of times a day at Whipsnade Zoo. It was so much fun. I didn't record all of it, but I did record some of it to show you, including the Zazu bird from The Lion King and the macaws who really stole the show. I'll let the member of staff explain better.
Good afternoon, everybody! Good afternoon, welcome to ZSL Whipsnade Zoo and 2 of the World's Demonstration. Are you all having a good day? Yes. What we like to hear, we've got lots and lots of birds we're going to be flying for you this afternoon. Can I just really quickly ask, whilst we have birds in the air, please remain seated for me. Some of them have been encouraged to fly very low over your heads, and we would like to avoid collisions. There's a lot of paperwork involved, but I can't be bothered. The first bird, in particular, he's a bit of a clumsy bird. If he looks like he's going to hit you, he is. Duck quickly. His name is Bruno, and Bruno is a species of eagle that you would find in Africa. He'll be appearing at some point. He'll just kind of appear and come up onto one of these telegraph posts, so keep your eyes peeled. Look at that. So he is a species of eagle that you would find in Africa. Now, if anybody is lucky enough to go out to Africa and go see animals out in their natural habitat, you can easily identify a battle eagle. If you were to look up and see a bird, you're not too sure what it is. You can identify a battle eagle by their silhouette. So with him, there he goes. Right, have a look at his silhouette as he flies over. You'll notice very, very big broad wings, itty bitty teeny weeny little tail. That tail is incredibly short. It almost does not exist. Now, there's nothing wrong with him, don't worry. This is very normal for battle eagles. Yes, he's related to the serpent eagle. Serpent eagles, they like to eat snakes, so they're going to spend a portion of their time down on the ground hunting snakes. And so if he had a long tail, he would scuff it up and render it useless. So, who said the Lion King? You were correct. Who's seen the Lion King? Loads of you. Who does this look like? Zazu. Zazu, that's right. This here is Guinea, here on the log. This here is Marley on my hand. And they are red-billed hornbills. This is a species of bird that Zazu was based upon. Ready? You got a grasshopper. Do you want a grasshopper? Yes, yes I do. There he goes. We got there, right.
It was so interesting hearing about all the different conservation works that this particular zoo does as well.
We do house some incredibly endangered species of animal, and we have recently been very lucky enough to be able to start flying some of these birds as well. Now, this here is a species of hornbill called the Visayan triptych hornbill. This is a species, that used to be quite prevalent across multiple islands over Indonesia. Now there are only 2,000 individuals left. Population is still declining, and they are now found on only 2 islands. They are one of the rarest hornbills on the planet. They are part of the international breeding program for their species, which means they're only temporary residents with us, because as soon as there is a female available for these ones, they will hopefully be going off to go start their own hornbill family, because what we as zoos strive to do, build a good, strong, healthy population of these endangered animals, and then once we have built one, we can then start to look into reintroducing them into the wild once it is safe to do so.
But as I said, it really was the macaws that stole the show, and they very much knew it was their show.
When we introduce those species into the wild. Very dramatic. We have 4 species of macaw for you. We have critically endangered species, once thought to be extinct in the wild. We have our hyacinth macaw, the big blue one. And then we have our scarlets as well, the red ones. Look at that. The scarlet macaws, and they were the newest ones. They joined us in 2021.
After the bird show, we headed to the tiger enclosure to try and spot them. I do not know where they were hiding. Somewhere in the shade, I should think, but I couldn't see them. Can you? We gave up and went in search of other big cats, and we did consider taking this little steam train that goes all the way around Whipsnade, but the queue was so long that we gave up and went and walked up to the flamingos instead. I think the flamingos looked so cool, but I was kind of disappointed that I didn't see a single one standing on one leg. Now, I have heard that they do that to cool their bodies down, and so maybe it was just cooler for them to have both legs in the water today because it was really, really hot. But it was wonderful to see them. They always just look so distinctive. I really, really like flamingos. Still chilling out. I wonder if the animals in the zoo think that we are there for their entertainment rather than the other way around. They're not bothered by us at all. And they seem to just sort of look at us with a little bit of interest and then go, oh yeah, that's a human, and carry on with their lives. And I guess that from their perspective, that kind of is the same as what we're doing to them. I also wonder if they know that they're in England rather than their home countries, and whether the weather is too weird for them. Like, do the animals that really like the heat like it in the summer here? We got close to the area where there's lions. There was lots of ways of telling how to see lions, and this is the viewing part where you can see the lions, but we couldn't see the lions. That is because it was too hot even for the African lions today, and so they were inside their little house, and you can't really see into that. It was nice and cool for them. I did film just in case there was one hiding out there that I hadn't seen, but I couldn't see one anywhere. Next off, we moved back to the other side of the rhinos. We had gone in a great big circle so we could see the rhinos again. And again, they just looked so placid and so happy. And then we went to my favourite part, which is the lemurs. I absolutely adore lemurs. Once when we came here, one touched me and it was so, so soft. But none of them came that close today. There were a lot of people and they might have been feeling just a little bit shy. But it was nice to see them out and about and moving about a little bit because, like I said, a lot of the animals were just too hot to be doing anything today. They were not up for performing for people. But these guys just seemed happy to playing in the shade and didn't seem too sleepy by the heat. Maybe that is because they're originally from like Madagascar or something where it is very, very hot. And so to them, this isn't that hot. But I was surprised that the lions found it too hot to be outside, but the lemurs didn't. The lemur's fur looks so much thicker than the lions, but I don't know if that's just the way it looks. And maybe the thickness of the coat might help deflect some of the heat. I'm not really sure. Later on, we continued on and we saw these wild boars, which were very, very cool. I'm not sure you can still call them wild boars when they're in captivity, but I guess that's the species. And then we finally saw a cat. It is a lynx. It was a very young lynx. It was pacing up and down a little bit near the side of the cage, which made it kind of seem like it was in too small of a cage. But I actually think that that was just the area where the most shade was in his enclosure, because his enclosure is massive compared to him. And so I think he's probably happier in there than he looks. He was just a little bit distressed by the heat. When we got outside, we saw this wall of zoo patrons where people can pay a little bit towards the zoo and have their name put on this lovely bright wall. I thought that looked very, very cool. And it's a good way to encourage people towards the conservation aspect. By this point, though, we had walked a good 7 miles. We were exhausted and it was time to go home. So I hope that you enjoyed coming to the zoo as much as I did. I didn't get to film quite as much as I would have liked to because I wanted to be really focused and present with the children. It's our last summer with my daughter before she goes off to university, and so when we've been doing day trips and holidays and things like that, I have been trying to be a little bit more there and a little bit less just filming things so that I can give her the attention she needs before she goes. Next week I will show you some of my holiday. It is very similar to my other videos that I've done at Kessingland, I'm afraid to say, and I didn't film as much as I should have for that same reason. But we had a little visit to Claremont Pier and we saw Poseidon, and I built a lot of rock towers, so I will get to show you all of those next week. If you can't wait till next week to see me again, I understand, pretty awesome. I will be here every single morning in your shorts, taking a great big deep breath, letting you know what I'm grateful for. Sometimes I'm letting you know what's challenging me that day as well. And I'll also be here for the next few weeks at least, doing a Witchy Wednesday intuitive tarot card reading. I might switch that up in a couple of weeks' time, I'm not sure yet. Until then, you have yourself a magical week.